Thank you, everybody, for joining. My name's Gareth Bales. I work for the Ice House. I've worked alongside a lot of CAs recently since the Ice House and the Chartered Accountants Australia and New Zealand have a really awesome partnership. So that's been going for a few years and it's been great for both. So we thought that it would be really good to do a webinar led up by Cairns and the Ice House. We'll thank as well Auckland AT for helping to sponsor these webinars, which have been really great support. But we thought that with the COVID-19 and everything that's happening and the impact that's happening on businesses and the wider community, it's the skills and expertise for accountants that's really been in need at the minute. And as we were talking offline at the beginning, everyone's been very busy through lockdown, business continuity, cash flow forecasting, accessing funding, all the things that accountants are now really helping their clients to help with. And we thought it would be really good to get a few chartered accountants here today to do a session designed for people watching, hopefully people who record and then watch, but just to understand how to get the best out of the skills of the people on. So I'll do a bit of introduction. It's quite a loose webinar in a sense. It will just be a Q&A. We've got about 4 or 5 questions that I've got for you guys, but then at the end, people watching, we really encourage you to get your questions in for us. But we'll start with a few intros. So we've got Luke from Next Advisory. Hi, Luke.
Hey, mate. How we doing?
Good, mate. You all right?
Yeah.
To give us a bit of an overview of Next Advisory.
Yeah. So we're probably 2.5 years into our journey of growing Next Advisories. So probably the recession's probably maybe what wasn't needed, but I think we'd sort of almost been looking forward to a bit of disruption in terms of the economy, because I think it does give us as accountants a bit of time to shine, because business owners start to face things that they haven't before and take some of their problems a bit more seriously. So we've actually been really, really busy and doing quite well, to be fair. So we are completely we don't have an office. I was going to say mobile, but I think it sounds a little bit off. But basically, this hasn't been very disruptive for us in terms of being able to work from anywhere, because it's how we operate anyway in the cloud and whatnot. So we've just been helping clients with various things, which we'll touch on today. And it's myself and a business partner, Phil, and we outsource bulk of our compliance to the Philippines, which I think accountants used to be scared to talk about, but now it's pretty well known that that's sort of what happens in our industry, and that frees up our time to be able to do more of the business growth and advisory work that fulfills us a lot more and seems to be in demand out there in the market.
Awesome. And you're in Auckland, eh?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but we've got clients across the country, but 80% would be in Auckland.
Mega awesome, sweet. Thanks so much, Luke. And we've got Kim from Bendall and Cant. Hi, Kim.
Hi. So yeah, I'm good. In my spare room, still working from home. So my name's Kim. I'm a partner at Bendall and Cant. We're an advisory firm, business advisory firm and accountancy firm in central Auckland. I have been a partner there for 2 or so years after joining from a few other firms. Funnily enough, I was seconded to Belfast during the GFC. So not my first recession. At least I don't have to tell Irish landowners they're bankrupt. So it's been a good change for me. So Bendall and Cant, we've got about 20 staff. We do our work in New Zealand, and our kind of point of difference is that we provide customized advice for our clients at a reasonable price. We've been enjoying working with our clients through this time and touching base with them, making sure everything is organised and we all succeed together.
Awesome, nice stuff. And then next we've got Jason from SMYD. Hey, Jason.
Hey, mate. So I'm Jason. I've had this business now for maybe just a little bit older than Luke, so probably coming up on 3 years. It's just myself and my wife. She would actually kill me if I didn't say that she helps run it as well. It's just me as the main CA. We've got a couple of staff, and we run it. It's very similar to Luke. We've got it outsourced as well. Probably the cool thing about my little firm is that 90%, probably on just a tick over 90% of our clients are under the age of 40. So all very, very young, all very early in their business journey. And I think that was probably what I loved about it and what I wanted to do getting into it, is that there's so much opportunity now to get in and help people when they're starting out, whether it be getting assistance stuff or giving them some knowledge that they need to get that business up and running. So, quite a young firm. Primarily we're home-based. We don't have an office or anything like that. We primarily are in Auckland as well, but we've got clients all over the place, all overseas as well. Quite a few in Bali as well. We've ended up quite a few digital nomads. So was planning on doing a business trip over to go and see them, but have to put that on hold for now. So hopefully once we can, we'll be able to get over and see them.
Nice. Awesome. And then finally, but not least, we've got John from MMCA down in Invercargill. You're in Invercargill, is that right, John?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, definitely. Yes, we've got a firm down here of around 60. We're on the cloud for everything, so for us the disruption wasn't too large, which was nice. We've also got a firm in Nelson, which has got a team of around 7. Again, totally in the cloud. So it's been nice to be able to work in a managed way with clients without too much disruption, and for the team to feel like they can keep on delivering value, which has been nice. I'm a Cairns regional counsellor as well. So, I try and look after the accountants around New Zealand and Australia and represent their views as well. And just looking to, again, help our clients get a smarter, better business. And we do that by outsourcing probably about a third of our compliance work. So again, just focus on that business advisory side of our business, which is growing and growing, especially during times like that when people need to work out what they need to focus on and the resources are a bit more precious than they perhaps are in the ordinary course of business.
Yeah, of course. Great. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today. I mean, we really do appreciate you taking your own time out of these days, and everyone's still off-site, which is good in a way, I guess. Going to the start of question, I'll start with you, Luke, and then I'll open it up to everyone. But how have you found it? I mean, you said that you were working at home, and you normally do. I know you spend a lot of time in cafes. So apart from not being able to get your coffee fix, how's it been? How's COVID been for you in Next Advisory?
Well, I'm glad you were very PC there and didn't say pubs. But
well, I thought that you'd say it, so that's why I didn't. I thought that you'd own it up.
Yeah, to be fair, for me personally and for us, for Phil and I, it's actually been really, really good. I think it's probably weeded out a number of the meetings that we probably could do in 5-15 minutes with whether those be with prospects, with clients. But often when you're traveling somewhere and then you're meeting, it's sort of, you feel almost disrespectful not giving people a whole hour. But I think everyone's working at a bit more speed at the moment. And also we've had, end of financial year. So this has given us a great opportunity to just get sunk straight into a lot of compliance and get it out of the way, because people are at home and they're looking at their financial information in front of them and they're like, yep, I can give you that. And so they're not on the road or busy themselves. So we've actually gotten through compliance faster than what we normally would. So that's probably worked to our advantage. But in terms of clients, we've got a real mixed bag, but no one really, really struggling yet. I think we've probably got some carnage still to come. But I think it's been interesting, the difference between what clients need. Some of them are just head down, get on with it. Then there's people that just want some help with something that potentially we can't even help with, but that's the value of having a network and being able to recommend them to somebody else. And I think the whole accountants as trusted advisors thing really shines through at a time like this, because we may be that only person that a business owner feels like they can call to have an accurate answer or get pushed in the right direction. So that's been a good use of our network for our clients. And then I think there's the confused business owners as well, who read all the stuff about pivot, opportunity, and they're going, well, what's that mean for me? And so they're trying to figure out, what should I be doing? And so almost trying to get them to strip the emotion out and slow down from, don't just launch a new product because you saw a competitor doing it. You don't even know what margin they're selling it for. Do you even know what a margin is when you start to sell a product when you've been a service offering business and things like that? So they're actually starting to learn the game of business, which is a lot more fun for us, because that's probably why we got into accounting, because we love it as well. Yeah.
And I think that there's always these, the words that everyone says during, times of panic, and personally working with business owners is doing pivot. And people sometimes ringing up going, I'm pivoting. Sometimes people ringing up going, what's pivot? I don't understand what I should be doing. But in the CA world, I guess something that I've spoken to a couple of you around, and a few other clients of mine, is around using live data. So live data to focus on something, normally future growth. Is that something that everyone's kind of felt that you're focusing on a lot at the moment? Is there a big importance on live data with your clients?
Yeah, I think it's made this recession or going into a recession a lot easier than the last one. So when the clients are ringing, like Luke said, that it's almost like the stages of grief, like, you know, initial panic and then relief and then confusion. So we can use that live data to talk them through it. So I think one of the things that we can do in our positions is go through and take what the media and the government and, you know, the business councils and things like that are saying and turn it into real world language and applying it to their businesses. So you can jump into Xero and you can say, hey, look, you aren't 30% down, so let's look at something else. Or hey, you're still paying rent, have you talked to your landlord? And we can see that, so we can talk through with them their stories, but then also prove that with some of the live data that's coming through to us, you know, from the day before or that day. So I think that's been a real benefit in this recession compared to last recession, and a way in which we can use that data that we've been harping on about in our industry for ages to show real value.
I think there's been a real forced evolution over this period as well. So not just for accountants, but for our clients as well. And they're actually taking a more engaged approach to the data and the information. They're normally at the end just wanting the advice, but now they're actually starting to dig into a little bit more around that information and that initial data, and being able to use the systems as well, and to be able to help do some scenario planning, just because they know where to go to print off a P&L in Xero, you know, those sorts of things they probably didn't know how to do before, and just taking a more active interest in what drives their business, perhaps rather than what's flowing through at the end, whether it be cash or a bottom line profit. So it's a really interesting time to be in the business development area with our clients, because it's helping us get to the real good stuff without having to sort of drag them kicking and screaming almost along. So I think, you know, it's a really valuable thing that we're going to have, that's going to come out of that, that's going to be enduring. And
would they have pushed back, John? Like previously, would they have gone, not pushed back, but you're trying to get them to use the live data before COVID, and now they're kind of facing it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've got to have some sort of dissatisfaction with the status quo to change what you're doing. And if things are going along just fine, why would you rock the boat? But it's like anything in life, we have to go through a change curve, and how fast we go through that, it depends on our own situation. And what this has done is just speed up that adoption of the innovation that's available, that has been available for a long time as well. And, you know, like, it's just not unusual for, you know, we were speaking before about, you know, not just using Zoom, but our clients are communicating with us through Messenger and all sorts of, you know, weird, and WhatsApp, you know, text messages, all these ways of communicating that we would never have had before. And that's just come through because of the individual situation and the need to just do something. And I think it's human nature that when something's happening around us, you know, if we've got the calm head, then maybe we just haven't understood the gravity of the situation, or maybe we're that deep in it that we just need to feel like we're actually doing something. And by taking a proactive step and using technology and engaging professionals, whether it be your accountant, your banker, your lawyer, your business coach, you know, those are the things that people are looking to do. And that's the great thing about being a chartered accountant, is that, you know, we are changing how people react to the particular situation they find themselves in. And we can either help support them, whether it's good news or bad news, whether it's to exit the business early and still keep your house, or whether it's to change and pivot, or whether it's just to refocus your resources in the most important areas. And it's just a wonderful time for my young team members to be dealing one-on-one with clients that they probably wouldn't have the opportunity to otherwise.
Yeah, and I mean, out of it comes opportunities. I mean, is there something that some of you have found when you're able to discover new opportunities or areas for value add with their clients that you'd kind of like to comment on, that you might not have thought that you had the opportunity to previously?
Concept of live data has actually been quite, like, when you actually think about it, you got your live financial data, and generally that's been what a lot of people will speak to their accountant about, what they're seeing in Xero. But there's also all the live data around CRM systems, their point of sale system, the live data that's coming in from their website, from their Google Analytics. There's all these different points of data that's previously trying to sort of pull them all together and have a conversation with someone about it. Sort of, they maybe lost a little bit of interest, or didn't quite see how it all sort of combined, or how those financial results in Xero were all related to all these different pieces of data. So it's been quite good because it's brought that all into focus, and it's meant you can have some of those conversations where you're actually now starting to look at some of the stuff that's coming in from their website, or coming in from their CRM system, or from their marketing, or their onboarding, all these different platforms. You're actually able to sort of look at it all at a different light, which traditionally was a lot harder to do unless you had someone who was like super motivated to achieve like their focus on their margin to get growth. But now it's kind of put everyone into that same boat, and it's opening up. Every day you're sort of looking under the hood of someone's business at all this different data, and you're getting all these new perspectives of it. It's been quite interesting in that sense.
Mm. Is there new things that you guys are using, or old tools or new tools? Things that, I mean, we spoke about obviously ways to communicate. Myself been using Facebook a lot more, and WhatsApp. But is there tools in the CA world that you kind of are going, oh, I'm using this again, or this is a new tool that's excellent, been really helpful?
I think for me, like I've resorted, interestingly enough, I've resorted a lot back to Excel, where I've kind of got people to send me in a whole bunch of data that, it's much easier for me to aggregate and summarize it, send it back to someone, rather than, me going in and trying to do it, or asking them to sort of go and sort it out themselves. Like, it's quite incredible how much all of a sudden people are appreciating a nice spreadsheet, which previously to this, we sort of tends to be that's what we were defined by, but now everyone's loving a good one. So that's been quite interesting how much people want to look at spreadsheets at the moment. And I found them, when used well, they're actually really helpful at breaking down information and trying to explain it to people.
Yeah, I'm much like Jace. We have been using, so we're using Teams, we're using Zoom, we're using WeChat, we're using Facebook, as I was saying before, Facebook Messenger in the supermarket, things like that. But along with those things that we were using before, just not as all of the functionality. Like yesterday, I was talking to quite an upset business owner, and I shared my screen, and we made a PowerPoint presentation that kind of walked through a certain business process that we were looking at changing. And so, I mean, this business owner's in his 70s, so he's not going to be able to do it as fast as I can. But on the screen with an Australian head office, we kind of modeled out something, and that's, little old PowerPoint that I haven't used since university.
Wow.
So it's just using the different functionality with your old stuff.
Mm.
Yeah, we've got a free cash flow planning tool that we give out, and got inundated with requests for it. And part of me was like, people aren't actually going to do this, I'm sure of it. Like, they're just like, oh, something free. But there's been people that have actually come back and were like, oh, great, I've actually modeled out what our next 3 months looks like for the first time. And then we did a live training of how to use the tool, and streamed it live on Facebook for people to watch, and then took the recording out and then emailed that back out to the people that had asked for the tool and things like that. And I think one of the old school metrics is just basically pure revenue. Like, we've got a client who has been very, very keen on retail, and their emotional attachment to retail is like, no, they come in here because it's part of the experience. And I know this digital thing exists, and I believe you, but I just don't think that we could get the same amount of sales. And as soon as they could open back up with an online store, bang, within like 4 hours, their capacity was done for the next week, because they just couldn't make anything more. And so it's given them the understanding and belief of like, oh wow, people do actually want my product, not just coming in the experience. So it's made them rethink their entire business plan. You can suggest some of these things to people to kind of get them thinking about it, but like John said before, they almost need this like change agent to go, oh wow, like I can do this differently, and it's okay. Yeah,
forces them to think and challenges them, because they've probably got a bit more time to actually consider doing things like that they wouldn't before. Every business that I think that we all kind of associate with is time poor normally. So I think that's been a change for all of us, is that all of a sudden you've got people ringing you up wanting to have a chat. Well, personally, not my wife, she wants me to go away a bit more, which is normal. We are getting questions in a minute, which I think is quite relevant. So apart from Xero that has been mentioned, and we mentioned a lot, the partner with and everyone uses, what are the sorts of most helpful apps or systems that are helping you and your clients through these challenging times, or the challenges they have? I mean, Luke, you just mentioned one then. Is there anything else that people have started to use?
We're using Futurely for quite a bit of our work with cash flows. It works really well for scenario planning. We also use Figured for our agri clients as well, and it's got superb scenario planning in it as well. And it's funny when you talk about Excel, because our younger team members, because we've been in the cloud and we've been using this technology for a while, for them to go to a spreadsheet's quite a foreign concept to them. Whereas, you know, some of us that are a bit more experienced perhaps go back to the old spreadsheets to do some of that work. But I guess what the situation is doing for both sides, it's allowing us to use new technology and to be able to not know all the answers as we go through. And, you know, we've certainly tested those apps way more than we probably would have normally. And we don't always get it right the first time, but people are really forgiving in this environment. And, you know, as Kimberley said, you are quite often collaborating via Zoom, sharing a screen, and you're actually working with the client at the particular time rather than doing a cash flow, handing it over, and they just put in the proverbial bottom drawer. And so there's much more engagement, I think, inside the technology that we're using as well, because it's quite easy to look at. Spreadsheets quite often confuse people when they look at them, but when you're working through an app, it feels like almost internet banking type scenario where it's quite intuitive, people can see, and you can just change one particular piece of a scenario and other things change. So, you know, I think more of my team certainly have got the skill set around that now to go and use that forward, whereas we probably weren't utilising that as much as we were before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in my client base, we have been using, I've had a lot of conversations about Workflow Max. And so this is just systems, not that clients have implemented during this recession or crisis, but things they had before and they didn't use. So I was talking to a client about how they're not eligible for the wage subsidy, which is incredibly upsetting for them because they're having cash flow problems because people aren't paying. So we went into Workflow Max and we were looking at the people matrix, you know, how many hours are they billing? How recoverable are they? How productive is it? And we were talking about utilizing people in a better way. Or maybe the administrator can stop doing some like manual adding up and start doing some daily dashboarding on how productive people are and what kind of calls are coming in. So Workflow Max is one that we've been doing dashboards on to try and help that in terms of future sales. Pipedrive is one that my construction clients are using quite a lot. I've got a client that makes tiny homes. So for them, they're worried about November, December, or October, and that January kind of cash flow poor month. So they're using Pipedrive to forecast out what their sales might look like and manage their deposits responsibly and things like that. And then any inventory system. So we were looking at Unleash the other day with a client and looking at their stock, and we were having a conversation whether the stock was obsolete or not. And so we can see the last time something was sold. So we're having a great discussion about what's obsolete and what's not, and what we should sell to get our cash flow and what we can write it down for tax and things like that. So that's not information we would have had before. That would have been in the back storage room that someone would have manually counted.
What I feel like we've all done is we've missed a trick here, and we should have got some of the apps we discussed as sponsors for the webinar. And we all could have made a little bit of money then, possibly. But that's just the salesman in me. Something's just come through again on the app, so I think it's quite good to sound. And said, what about an app that works for integrating data for business services that are not hourly based? Anyone know of any?
Probably need to understand what the problem is that you're trying to solve there, because I guess that kind of explains a number of businesses, but not too sure what the actual
context of it is, eh?
Yeah. We're gonna Kerry flick it into the chat, and we'll go again. I'll see if we can add more to that. Something that I've been discussing a lot with clients is around continuity planning. As the dust settles, people have kind of got a bit more of a handle on it, but especially through COVID, cash flow planning, alternative funding, are these all topics everyone's found that they're having conversations with their clients?
Absolutely. I think it's, most of our clients now need to have a better understanding of their business. They need to know their business and know their numbers a lot better than perhaps they did, and just understand those key drivers again of what's actually blocking their profit or blocking their cash flow or blocking their sales, and where they need to focus on to try and, get some go forward in whatever area they need to really focus on. And I think what's happened is that business owners have had a lot of important things to get onto, but haven't been urgent, like working out how to get a report out of Vend or whatever particular piece of software they're using. And now that's become super important to them, but also urgent. And so we're seeing, all this business intelligence coming through from the live data, but also turning that into information and then perhaps coming to us for advice. And so we're really starting to reverse that trend of people coming to an accountant just for the advice. So we're actually driving right back from the data through the information to the advice as well. And quite often, what I find myself doing is teaching our clients how to fish now, rather than giving them the fish, because once they've got that information and they've got the ability to go in and understand what's driving their business and where to find that report, and how to change something within their business to make a difference and then to mark and measure it, it's something that they're going to have forever, which I think is a pretty cool concept for a lot of our clients to take away, and will be a great legacy that comes out of an event like this.
I've been quite lucky, or I suppose lucky's not, well, anyway, just because we've got such a younger client base, a lot of the people I'm working with, especially if it's trades, it's their partners or wives are the ones that I'm working with, because a lot of them have kids, so they're at home with children. So teaching them a lot of the fundamentals of running the business has kind of been what we were doing anyway. So now that we're in this, all this stuff's happened, they're actually more wanting to learn how they can do a lot of their own cash flow forecasting. So luckily we haven't been too exposed to anyone that is in a very ultra precarious position right now, but they're all looking at that timeline down the line. So it's just, how can we find a simple solution to get them to help them understand, at least so they can answer the question, what's their cash reserves going to look like in 3, 4, 5 months time, based off what they know now. So it's a lot of forecasting, and whether that's using Spotlight reporting or Futurely, or some of them are using spreadsheets, or whatever floats their boat, whatever helps them to understand what they're going to look like so they can make decisions now. That's at the moment where we're looking. Hopefully we don't have to get into that position where we're looking at, okay, we're going to have to make some pretty big decisions about survivability, trying to avoid getting to that point in the first place. So it's a lot of future stuff. So hopefully we can stay in that position.
I'll just add to that really briefly that I think if we really want to move the needle in New Zealand of having more efficient and successful businesses, we're going to have to help educate people. And I think this is a great time to be able to do that. And, it's very, very easy to start a business in New Zealand in terms of the basic foundations, but can you actually run a business? That's a lot different. So some of the conversations we've been having with clients around cash flow planning, we're explaining, look, we're not only doing this because everybody else is doing it at the moment. This is something you need to build a habit around. Then explaining, look, if you do this and you do this monthly, you will instantly be in the top 20% of businesses that stay consistent to good fundamentals of operating a business. And they're kind of like a little bit of a light bulb of like, oh, wow. Like, so if I need to be good at this, I actually need to do this stuff. And they approach it from a little bit of a different angle. So hopefully we can encourage business owners to stay consistent with some of the things that we think are, we almost take for granted that it's what you should be doing because we spent way too much time at uni and then becoming chartered accountants, loving it.
Yeah, I think what John said is really interesting, like the fishing. So a lot of what I've been talking to clients about is what they need to know and what they can let go of. And what I've realized as a youngish professional is that we're so
Jason, you're lucky. Kimberley, you're young. Luke, you look great. I mean, this is John is great at fishing.
Fishing for compliments, come on.
Yeah, okay. As we're so connected. So we can help with that fishing expedition. And as Luke said, there's things that business owners need to know. And there's other things that are just not your wheelhouse and shouldn't be. I fielded, we were talking about it just before this webinar, I fielded a lot of HR questions. And so I think we're really good, we're really well placed as I know my clients' businesses inside and out. So what I can do is I can connect those people with someone who that's their specialty and help translate what the business issue is to be able to get the business owner the right outcome and help them through that journey. And I think that's part of what has made us unique in this situation, is that we're not only just doing the cash flows and educating business owners with what they need to know, but we're also connecting them with different parts of the business industry when they need them. And that's when kind of that trust comes in.
Oh yeah, I think from my experience of working with you guys and CAs, but also working with business owners, is that apart from the wife or the partner in the business, probably the second or third most important person in the business often is the accountant. And when there isn't a good relationship with the accountant, they're the first ones to shout that from the rooftop. It's pretty much, it's like anything. They probably won't mention anything if you're really, really good. But that network and understanding that people probably come to you to look for advice elsewhere, that's actually a question I was going to ask. I mean, the community at the minute and referring people elsewhere. I've had a few leads, not from anyone in this room, tut, but I've had accountants reach out to the Ice House and say that they are looking at redoing a completely new business plan, or they want a coach for something in governance, or it's been great for us, and vice versa. Have you guys all found that the community and the network has been really important to keeping your clients happy and ahead of the 8 ball?
Yeah, it's I feel like it's probably just following on from what everyone else has talked about, but the more I've found anyway, the more that you can connect them to someone else who's a specialist that can help them in certain areas, the more they start to rely on you, the more central you become, the stronger the relationship is, the more comfortable they start getting asking you questions that they may not have been comfortable asking. So I think it's the more that we can actually look out and try and anticipate what some of their needs are going to be, and then try and get ahead of that and reach out to try and bring people in. And it's almost come off a suggestion that we've noticed something, I think you should talk to this person. The more powerful it is in helping us have that good working relationship with them.
Yeah. Even for accountants, we've got each other to ask. Like, I wouldn't have a problem with picking up the phone and asking, Kim, Jason, John, hey mate, can you help me with this? Because, I'm not entirely sure I'm on the right track here. And I think we've gotten better at that. And it's so important, because I think when you're a little bit younger, I should say I'm still young, but kind of have that naivety or a little bit of arrogance of I have to know everything. And if this client finds out that I don't know, that something's wrong. But really, they just want you to tell hey, look, I'm not entirely sure, but let me come back to you. I'll go and find the answer for you. And then you can help them fish, like John says as well. And so it's so important to be able to ask for help, not just for business owners, but for us as well, the accountants.
I think that's really important. Sorry, John. There's a question come up. There are a couple of questions about outsourcing. And I actually love that question. We don't outsource as a firm, but I'm not against it. I think that you have to do what you're good at, and you also have to use your people in the best way possible. So I think in terms of New Zealand, our best value at this stage is for accountants to help their businesses and their clients succeed. And if that means that there's certain functions that get outsourced, and that we retrain our profession and the business network to give more advice and be more supportive, then I think it's kind of a win-win.
Yeah. When you're looking at the outsourcing, obviously that's offshore often, is it something in the current state that if people who do outsource would be thinking about using it more here in New Zealand if the opportunity arose? I mean, cost and things like that, take that into consideration.
I think, we got to, for me, just following on from what Kim said, it's probably more focusing on outsourcing compliance as what's gone out, as what's gone overseas. It's that compliance aspect, which as technology keeps developing faster and faster, that compliance part's shrinking more and more anyway. So realistically, bringing it back to New Zealand, it's whether there's actually any market for it to be brought back to New Zealand. It's actually more around the jobs and the value and the opportunities that arise out of us being able to spend more time focusing on working with businesses. What potential jobs or what potential careers could that create for someone? Yeah. Because so much more of our time, especially in this current crisis, so much of our time is spent actually working with businesses and actually educating them, upskilling them, teaching them, doing so much cool stuff. Who knows what that will create off the back of it, which is going to be much more value add than that compliance aspect.
What's exactly involved? People who don't know, one of the questions. Thanks, Daniel Blair, for this. But what's exactly involved in compliance from an outsourcing perspective?
So for me, you've got a team that's based overseas, and so because I think all of us here are cloud-based, so everything's done online. So they do a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to all the work and administration work we've got to do to ensure that we're complying with various rules and regulations. So it's work that it's a lot of documentation gathering that's pulling everything together. It's obviously because a lot of what we use is in Xero, so it's making sure that Xero is configured correctly. So it's setting up all those configurations so that when we do come time to prepare that annual report and tax return, all that information from its source is flowing into the correct places that it needs to flow into correctly. And then that means that as us, and I'm sure everyone else here will be the same, but that means that when we spend our time then reviewing it and making sure that A, that number at the source is correct, and then B, that wherever it's flowing to is correct as well. So I think in summary, outsourcing compliance is around ensuring that we've got all the data that we need and that data is going to the correct places.
Correct.
I think for us with outsourcing, it's about a capacity issue. And most accounting firms that are successful with their outsourcing use it because of that. It's actually not for a cheaper price. It's actually to create more capacity to work with your clients in a different way and fulfill your core purpose. And I work with about 20 accounting firms, just helping them through that process and getting their technology and getting online and doing outsourcing and doing business development. I just want to touch on something Luke said before. So I'm part of an accounting group of other accounting firms, non-competing throughout New Zealand. And we can pick up the phone anytime. And if anyone out there wants to be part of a group, then just get hold of me and I can put you in touch with some people that can certainly help you do that. And you can get with a network of people that are doing really cool things and just progressing, and just there's really good support and help and understanding of what others are doing in your own industry, which has helped propel Mallet McLean forward so far. It's unbelievable.
That's brilliant, John. What I'll do in a second is I'll put all of the emails from all the attendees in the chat box of this. So if anyone who wants to reach out, please do. I'll also put the Icehouse website email address there as well. So anyone who wants to reach out, even just be connected with one of the guys if you don't want to go direct, then come through to us here. That's great. I mean, another question that's come through was you had a really good point about Kimberley, about being a connector, and then something you all deal with is banks, you know, and having a good relationship with banks. How have they been? I don't want to take the worms, but it's well worth asking. Has it been good all over, generally?
Yeah, I think a bank is a relationship. So I think for my clients, the ones that have worked on that relationship and vice versa, the banks working on that relationship have done really well. And sometimes it's hard because people move around banks a lot. They're quite transient in terms of the people. But yeah, I think that some of our clients have struggled if they haven't already got those relationships, which is, you know, why they lean on their professionals to help them. So I've been connecting to some of the bankers that I work with on a more intimate basis to help those clients that are struggling to get in contact with bank or get assistance. But yeah, it's those relationships that you develop in your business community around your business that really help you in times like these.
Yeah.
It's the value that you actually put into those relationships as well. And those that are tire kickers or just shopping around for price probably find themselves in a different position to others that perhaps have that enduring relationship with the professionals that they've had before. And it really is a team effort. And the banks are commercial at the end of the day, and they're supporting the ones they can support, and the ones that they can't, you know, are having to make some tough decisions. But I think those tough decisions have to be made as well. I mean, you can't help everyone. The reality is that people need the right advice, not to be given some fairy sort of story that everything's going to be fine when perhaps they're not, because of the industry, or, you know, they've gone to almost zero sales. And we've seen that with some big, large companies, but also the small ones as well. And, you know, I think people need to hear the truth as well. And that can often be hard. So, you know, it's a tough position for everyone sometimes when you're working with those sort of clients.
Yeah, I think clients can get into the, I've had a couple of panicked phone calls saying, hey, can I have my accounts? I need to send them to the bank. And it's actually stepping back a little bit from there and going through, hey, what's your story? and
Yeah,
working
being
through
bank
all
ready.
those decisions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
be actually bank ready. Don't roll up with some hope and a cash flow on a piece of paper.
And a
Good
big
story goes a
smile,
long way.
and flowers.
Yeah, that's all right. Read.
And I mean, it's not the first recession that many people will have been through, or people on this webinar that have been through. But is there, thinking back on lessons previously learned, are they still relevant now from previous recessions?
Yeah, I would just very, very quickly say, like, don't retreat to the point where you become invisible. You lose your relationship with your customers, and your job's going to be so much harder, and someone else is going to come along and cut them away from you. People's attention, and this is probably the first time we've had this much attention on screens after a recession and during a recession. So marketing spend has become cheaper, and the return on that is increased because people are more likely to look at it. So stay visible, and then go to the 80-20 rule. If you don't know what the 80-20 rule, that is your activity today. Go and Google that, figure out how that applies to different areas of your revenue, of your debtors, of the things that piss you off in your business, the reason that you get out of bed in the morning, and have a good think about that, and stay positive.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a nice way to end, but we're not ready to end.
Oh,
Nailed it.
Right, just write that down, Luke. I'm going to come back to you in 10 minutes, mate.
You know, I mean, it is so relevant what Luke was just saying. That mindset as well is, and I think you think back, thinking back to 08 and some of the people that managed to get through that and come out stronger really were the people that understood the fundamentals of their numbers and understood their profitability and their margins, and could really strip back and really focus on just the key basics of their business performance. That education, that knowledge, that ability to use that to make decisions, whether that came around like what Luke was saying around marketing spending, around how they can keep their presence live, how they can stay relevant, like having that really good sound knowledge allowed them to make those good decisions. Versus it took a lot of emotion and a lot of panic out of what they were doing. So I think whatever recession you're in, just going back to those basics and ensuring you can answer those really key questions around those fundamentals of your business will mean you can make those better decisions.
Yeah, I think forward looking, I think investing in the future. I think I've got a lot of friends in media and they're saying, oh, marketing spend's down, but looking into the future, because this has happened so fast. So one of the biggest things that I recall that's different from the GFC to now is this happened it felt like overnight. Whereas the GFC was a little bit of a slow burn.
Build up to it. Yeah.
So yeah, going through and investing in the future. So investing in relationships that will help you in the future, and spending in infrastructure, whether that be online presence or marketing or things like that, or developing relationships with your professionals. I bought into our practice a couple of years ago, and I've talked to a lot of people in the same boat, and we have had a lot of conversations about hustling. Like, now is our time to hustle for the future, and it might not be all a bed of roses now, but we're putting this time and effort in now for the future, and so it's an opportunity. It's actually kind of exciting.
Oh, definitely. I think from the perspective of the Ice House as well, something that they found out after last GFC is that when they had some of their biggest years, is that business owners wanted to invest in themselves and do training, work with accountants, think about the future rather than the past, and really take some time. And that marketing spend, that is something that I think a lot of us probably are finding, that the marketing spend is down, but it's probably the worst time to do it. It really should be investing into that. And it was a really good point from Kirsty. She agreed with you, Luke, around advising clients to up their marketing spend, not cut it. Is there any other, I mean, we're coming towards the end now, is there any other kind of gems of advice everyone would want to give? I mean, a couple of not minutes, 30 seconds each of just, I mean, Luke, you've kind of done yours, but we'll come back around and you can repeat it.
I think for me, it's just probably, be real with your situation and get some good advice, get good people around you, and just operate with some sound variables if you're forecasting forward. And look, don't go with the flow. Chances are, if everyone's doing something, then you should probably be looking at that objectively and just assessing whether that's the right thing for you and your business, because every business is in a different situation. Every business owner is in a different situation. Understand what your personal needs are, what your personal goals are, and what your business goals and objectives are, and try and mix those two together and just work out what the biggest roadblocks are in front of you right now, and do what you can to, you know, blow those roadblocks away. But don't lose the shirt off your back trying to do something that's not possible. And you've got to have some reality. It is a crisis and there is opportunity, but there's reality mixed in. And I think as chartered accountants, we need to bring a mix of all those three things and look at it through a lens with no emotion, or as little emotion as we can, and try and be objective and give them that solid base that they need going forward.
Awesome.
One of the things that I've taken away from this is the value of some time out, some reflection time. I was on the phone probably 10 hours a day for the first 6 weeks, and I took a couple of days off. So I think for business owners, you know, we're doing a lot of work, we're hustling, we're doing a lot of that, you know, goal planning, seeking and things, but taking some time out so you can reflect, so you can get that perspective, and to John's point, take some of the emotion out of it.
Totally.
Following on, I mean, yeah, my thoughts obviously mirrored exactly from what everyone's been saying. And I think for me, and some of the things I'm seeing within people is how much, like, you look at their knowledge and their ability as a business owner now compared to what they were even 6 weeks ago prior to all this kicking off. Like, some of the conversations some of these people are having are the level of, like, what CEOs of big businesses should be having. And 6 weeks ago, they didn't even know what some of these terms were. So it's quite heartening to see that knowledge being taken on board and people understanding it and actually becoming business owners, CEOs, and actually starting to get some self-confidence and believe in themselves. So I think we're going to see some really capable, confident, especially like in my space, some capable, confident young owners coming out of this, which is always a light and heartening.
Luke?
I was just going to say, I mean, you know, you're in sales, mate, and, you know, if you don't sell, you create your own recession, right? So I think people need to be careful not to let the media headlines be the story of your business, because often we can read a title or a story that's completely unrelated to our industry, our clients, all those sorts of, the way we do business, the way we look at the world, and we're like, oh, holy shit, it's doom and gloom. But realistically, like, we're all smaller business. They can create their own recession and a boom, because they can just stop hustling, or they can stop doing the things that work. So smaller business owners are actually already very, like, recession proof and resilience proof. They've learnt these skills on the way up, but then we just get bombarded by the story of some of these industries and whatnot that have been massively affected, and think, okay, therefore that story applies to me, and it doesn't. So just be very, very careful the story that you let become your truth for your business.
Yeah, I think it's very true. And also have open conversations. I mean, in the sales, if I've got my complete sales hat and I'm selling, you know, a big piece of advisory work, or someone going on our owner manager program, if someone says to me, look, I'm keen to do it, but I can't pay for it right now, that's something where I go, well, this is an opportunity for us to work with this client. They're willing to pay it back at some stage. I've got 2 clients on our next owner manager program in tourism who have completely been obliterated, but this is the time for them to plan for their future. We've worked out a way for them to still do the program. And anyone listening out there is ask for help, or, you know, engage with people, because I know all these accountants that are on this call and people who are watching are really keen to help everybody. And on that note, I mean, I've put all of our email addresses in the chat. Please reach out to us, even if it's just a general question. If you want to be, just come through me in the first instance. If you've got a bit of a tough question, you want me to angle them off, or I can put you in touch with Cans Direct. The Cans Direct isn't some weird furniture shop, it's Cans directly. But also I'd like to say thank you to Chartered Accountants Australia and New Zealand. The relationship that the Ice House and Cans have got has gone from strength to strength. We really do appreciate this. They've got scholarships with us for chartered accountants to go through our programs, as some of the people on the call have received, but also making the connection between you all a bit easier. So anything you need, please reach out, and I'd like to thank Chartered Accountants Australia and New Zealand for that. Also, all of the CAs on this call, make sure you go through to my CA and log the 1 hour CPD. that's not the reason you're on this call, but it's an added bonus. Also, thanks to AT. I think I've pretty much got through all of it. We really live on feedback. So also in the chat, we've got the feedback, give feedback code. Please give us feedback. We will be doing more of these with cans in the future. So any feedback you give, like awesome shirt, Luke, nice hat, Jason, beautiful flowers, Kimberley. I haven't got any negative or positive to say about anyone else. So but it has been really good. And I think that the reason you all are here today is because you're very passionate about your clients, from Invercargill all the way up to Auckland. It doesn't matter where we are. Everyone on this call has a passion to help business owners and other CAs. So make sure everyone who's watching, please reach out to us if need be. We'll stay on for the next few minutes. If you've got any questions for the next 5 minutes, flip them through. But essentially, that is the end of the webinar. So thanks everyone for
the feedback.
Feedback. Feedback. Give feedback.
We love feedback.
Yeah.
We do love feedback. It's Elena from the Ice House has just put that into the web chat. Also, emails on there, and just reach out. But I appreciate everyone for your time today. It has been awesome.